with no trace. Men in black with their secrets tied, hiding what we saw that night. They write it off, say it's pretend, but the questions never end. They're already here, watching from above, hiding in the skies. What are they thinking of? Do they come in peace or bring us fear? The question's not if, it's why are they here? Are they here to save us from our endless fight? Or will they rise and take the night? Do they watch us with a heavy heart? Or is this the plan they've had from the start? They're already here, watching from above, hiding in the skies. What are they thinking of? Do they come in peace or bring us fear? The question's not if, it's why are they here? So look to the stars and open your mind. The truth is out there, it's not hard to find. Aliens or angels, the story's unclear, but one thing's for sure, they're already here.
G'day everyone, welcome back to another live stream there. This time you got the UFO Collective Down Under joining us. It's going to be an awesome episode tonight. Wherever you're listening in from, thanks for joining in with us there. If you're new to the channel there, thank you so much for joining in with us there. And don't forget to like and subscribe and share it out with your friends and family, wherever it needs to go to there. Share it out to wherever you think it needs to go to. Sorry for the delay there, guys. We did have a bit of a hiccup there with the links playing up there, and a few of our things weren't really working as it usually does. Have a few hiccups there. But also a shout out to Lumen Ray there with the song there. They're already here. Great little song there, especially covering the Westall incident that happened there in 1966. It was a great little tune there with a little beat. He's got some good songs there as well that sort of leads along conspiracies as well. So go and check out his tunes there. He's done a great job. So thanks Lumen Ray there for letting me use your song there, mate. But look, let's get this cracking in tonight, and we've got the big heavy hitters here in Australia's UFO researching and investigations and whatnots there. So I'm sure these people here don't need a introduction. Oh, hang on, I'm playing silly buttons here. There we go. Just go click some more buttons here and get everything all working. There we go. G'day, guys. How we going?
Just hit all the buttons, mate. Don't worry about it.
I'm hitting them all, mate, as long as it's not the end stream one.
No, well, mate, how's everybody else? Good.
Going good. Going good. I think everyone's been busy there the last, I think it's been, 6 months since we've come back on this one there. I think start of the year we had a crack at this. And we've got to introduce Bill Chalker into the collective now. And welcome, Bill.
Yeah, thank you for the welcome. I'm a bit of a newbie, so I'm waiting for the free form, you know. anything goes within reason. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. So look, let's crack this off. Like next month we have Cardwell coming up. So I think
should I be wearing a bulletproof vest or something like that? No, no, I'm okay.
No hazing here, Bill.
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
I think Sheryl, you're the only one that's not coming up, are you?
that's right. I'm not. No, I'm zooming in.
Yeah, it's a long ride.
I'm a piker. I have to say it. Sorry about that, but I'm zooming in. I've got a lot going on, so yeah. That's what you're getting.
Yeah.
God, everyone's quiet now. Like,
We
what?
are quiet, aren't we? That was
What?
just
You're not
everyone.
going?
Almost stunned silence. Yeah.
I think everyone. You don't want to talk over it. 6 people's a lot. We try not to talk over each other. So,
I
I
know.
mean, obviously we can't give away what we're discussing at Cardwell, but even though you're zooming in, Sheryl, what are you going to be discussing up there?
Well, I'll be talking about Australian saucer nests and ground circle mysteries. I've been looking through a lot of records, and I'm really surprised how many of those have been scattered throughout Australia. So I think that people will be surprised too. And actually, I did give our members a sneak peek at my presentation last week, which was much longer, which went for 2 hours.
Wow.
So I think we only get to speak for an hour, but they were startled at how many of those sort of cases exist in Australian history. So, yep, that's what I'm talking about.
What about you, Graham? What are you doing, mate?
The ground trace experience is something I really focused on, particularly during the 70s, 80s, and early 90s. But then it got all abducted by crop circles and that kind of stuff. But I'm a bit of a, I don't know, not entirely closed mind about crop circles, but I do believe the majority of them are human field art and that kind of stuff. But there are some unexplainable crop circle cases as well. So, I was mainly interested in ground traces that had direct correlations with UFO events, and there's been an awful lot of them. Yeah, and I agree with Sheryl. That's great. I'm glad you're focusing on it because it is a really interesting subject.
Yeah, that's my focus. And I'm also going to talk about a personal experience I had while investigating one too. Myself and Barry Taylor in New South Wales, and how we had physical effects following it. So I'll be talking about that too.
Is this in light of the Tully nests there, Sheryl? You didn't highlight for that? Because it's still 60 years, so.
Yeah, well, I won't be covering. Actually, synchronistically, I had actually already prepared this presentation around that topic because I thought it is the Tully Nest 60th anniversary this year. And then Thea contacted me, the organizer of the festival, and she said, can you talk about this? And I said, well, actually, I've already picked this topic. And she said, well, actually, that will go well because Shane Panisi's talking about Tully, and Bill's going to talk about his personal experiences investigating it. So she said, yep, that'll tie in really well. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Just, powers of the universe highlighting that one, eh?
Planets lined up.
Yeah,
it did.
Yeah.
It's
great that Shane's getting a chance to finally speak in person. To mark the 60th anniversary of Tully is great, and for you to be there as well, Bill. To also,
I'm looking forward to that because I know Shane years ago extended the invitation, to drop in and sort of there'd be a room there if I ever turned up again. But you know what circumstances are like, And the only time I actually was there was way back in the early 1970s, and during a failed surfing trip. So our car broke down up near Cape York, and we left the car at a wreckers, and we all started making our way back. And I was determined to, at least while I was up this part of the woods, visit Tully, and that's what I did. And but I wasn't exactly in investigator mode, that's for sure, because essentially wearing the clothes that I was on my back, basically, and as you do when you go on a surfing safari, and it was good. I expected a little bit of an intimidating presence because Albert turned up at the door and or at the front and to greet me and basically asking, "What do you want, mate?" And thinking, I suppose I looked a bit, how shall I say, bedraggled. But once I explained what I was on about, I got the royal tour, which is great. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it was Shane that warned me when I waded into the lagoon that there were taipans in there, and I literally flew out of the lagoon when he said that, and I thought, it would have been nice to have known about that beforehand. If I'd done the proper research, I would have realised that, but there were no taipans as far as I could tell. I couldn't see it anyway.
That's the thing, though. You don't see them.
Yeah, that's exactly the problem. Yeah, yeah.
This be your first time
lucky
back
for
in
me.
almost 50 years, Bill. Is that right? This be your first time there in about 50 years.
Yeah, well, 70.
Well, that's
yeah.
that's
that
kind
would
of
be
special.
right.
The
Yeah, that'd be
60th
right.
anniversary.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward
Great.
to it.
Yeah.
Bill was at our conference in 2006, weren't you, Bill? When we hosted,
That was
we
fantastic.
had Albert speak there,
Yeah,
Shane's
yeah.
father, and we were lucky that he did come down to Brisbane to speak because he wasn't really well then, was he, Bill? And
No.
and unfortunately he died the next year, but we did manage to record him. And anyone interested, you can go and look at Albert's presentation on the UFO Research Queensland YouTube channel. It's there in the back docs of our channel. But it's really good to hear, like Bill, you had that opportunity too, but it's really good to hear someone tell it firsthand.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, it was a special presentation. That gathering in 2006 was really great. Yeah, I enjoyed that. In fact, that was one of the main reasons I went. So, yeah.
Mm.
No, excellent.
Well,
So,
purely
Grant,
by
what do you?
stroke of good luck that you and I, Anthony, got a chance to meet Shane last year and get a tour of the property. So that was really, really cool.
Yeah, it took a little bit of trucking down there, and we had a bit of a hiccups here and there, but we finally found him sort of by accident, really. But
nobody followed my map.
Well, you got a map up there. Where's your map?
I gave Grant, I'm pretty sure, I gave someone up there a map anyway to follow, or a rough map, but it was pretty rough. Even I lost my bearings trying to figure out. But you know, I was asking locals at the local pub, you know, to where the hell I should be going, basically. So
yeah. Well, we went. We asked some bloke in a tractor there cutting his grass, and then we pulled up some old bloke, Dave. What was his name? Dave. I lost his name. Dave. Old fella there too. He was driving by there and we pulled him up there and he took us straight to the door. And it's like, we didn't realize it was the house at the time. Like he just goes, oh, you know, he let us through there. We didn't realize it was Shane Panisi and his wife there until we come back and go, oh, you look, thanks for letting us come there.
Really easy because I had to hitchhike to the door. So yeah, but I got there. Yeah,
that's all right. Lucky
the locals were very friendly,
very accommodating and generous of his time last year.
They are. They're very friendly.
Yeah, it was a really good experience, to tell the truth there, and it really made that whole weekend so much better. Talking to Shane there, it was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
So Grant, what are you talking about this? Give us a bit of a rundown on what you're talking about this year.
Well, obviously, this year also marks the 60th anniversary of Westall. So I thought, standing on the shoulders of giants and the work that Bill and Keith Basterfield and Shane Ryan have done, I thought I'd do a presentation on Westall, factoring in some of the research that I've attempted to undertake over the years, and really provide those that will be in attendance that maybe don't have a good frame of reference for the Westall case, which happened only a couple of months after the Tully case. Give them a good introduction and focus on the secrecy, Westall, 60 years of secrecy. So kind of doing a high-level introduction to the Westall case and where things are at. So yeah, looking forward to it. Still working on the slide deck, so hopefully I'll have it done in time.
Yeah, wonderful. Bill, obviously, you're talking about your history there, and I think you're touching on the Tully-ness as well, aren't you? There on with Shane.
My main focus. Yeah, I might give the Peter's case a plug, or I can talk on practically any topic in Australian ufology, I guess, in many ways. But
pretty well.
Yeah, I've been there long enough, so I know the history fairly well.
Yeah, that's right. I wasn't sure if you had like a main focus there, or if you because I think everyone's dedicated to about an hour or so. It's like I think we need about a month's worth of time for you there, Bill, to go and get all your knowledge.
Yeah. No, it'll be fun. Yeah,
that'll be good.
Yeah.
That's right. What about you there, Leigh? What are you doing this year, mate?
I've been lurking around the swamps of mainstream media, so it's going to be to do with investigations, mainstream media, and disinformation. All right. So there might be a few interesting tidbits in there that might be worth listening to.
Yeah, right. So you took a leaf out of my book, are you?
You
No,
actually,
not-
you actually implying that the media are playing games with us most of the time?
No, not me.
Stunned. I'm absolutely stunned. Yeah.
I wouldn't do that.
No. The hard part about media treatment of UFOs in Australia and broadly overseas is finding something that's actually intelligent. And yeah, it doesn't happen very often, but from time to time there's some interesting media coverage, but it's a rare thing.
That's wonderful, wonderful. That's right. Well, I hope you there, Triff. You're coming up as well, mate. So
Yeah, I'm coming
what
up,
are we
mate.
looking forward to?
I'm circling around a story written in stone. I'll be on the Sunday, so it's more sort of ancient civilization stuff. So I'm sort of releasing myself a little bit from the anti-gravity stuff I did last year and leaning more into the ancient civilization type stuff, because I do think everything's tied together. Everything connects in some way. I do think that. So, there's plenty of stuff that can be drawn upon from the ancient civilization research. And look, I'm hoping to get some results to something before I get up there, which could be massive. However, I can't say any more than that.
That's all right. Something to look forward to.
Okay, so yeah.
That's all right. That's cool there. And for myself there,
I've been doing some proper science, mate. I actually have been
okay.
doing some proper science. Yeah, getting some stuff tested. So, but it'll be touch and go whether we get the results before Cardwell. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's
Nice.
all right. For myself there, I'm just going to be touching on a bit of my podcast history there, a bit of myself there. And anyone who saw last year there, talking about misidentifications and what to look out for, and trying to look for genuine UAP and how we can, easily make mistakes with what we observe in the sky, basically, or try and take with our cameras. So that's pretty much all I'll be touching on there. And yeah, otherwise it should be a pretty good turnout. I think it's quite a big lineup this year of some really noticeable people who are in the community. So it should be a really good weekend, as usual.
Yep, looking forward to it. Yep.
Yeah.
No, it's going to be good. So what do you want to touch on there? Now, the US has been pretty busy in the last few months there with their heavy hitters, Anna Paulina Luna and Tim Burchett, and then Donald Trump's brought out, the UFO files there.
Yeah, boring. It's boring. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we're trying to make this exciting. Come on, guys.
Yeah, no. Let me deliver a little bit of. Well, this is a bit literary, but I'll try and keep it to Australia as much as I can, because I'm a bit Australian centric, so that's all good. During the month of May, I don't know whether most people know this, there were 2 novels published in Australia that were focused on UFOs or flying saucers, and one by a former Miles Franklin Literary Award winner. So I'll tell you what these are. Have you anybody familiar with these?
Can't see it.
No.
Captured?
No.
Can you see it?
Hang on a sec.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, captured in a season for flying saucers.
saucers.
Have a
Oh,
go
yes.
with that.
Yep.
Yeah, and whoops.
Yep.
Yeah. And
That's better.
Yeah, Amanda Lowry, she got the Miles Franklin Award for a previous book, which is this one here, The Labyrinth. So, but that the capture one is actually based on abductions.
Right.
Don't expect any inside information on the UFO reality. It's more about the human side of it in both the novels.
Okay.
Although the season for Flying Saucers is set in Hobart, but it also incorporates real UFO events and actually mentions Keith Roberts and the Tasmanian UFO group, which is now essentially just an internet presence. But they talk about real cases in it, but it's essentially about kind of a family falling apart, but because of an abduction experience that took place back in about 1975, and then the attempt to reintegrate the family back together again, and whether or not the father is present or not, he was the one that was abducted and had been missing for a long, long time. So, yeah.
Mm.
So it's an interesting book, and Captured is quite interesting as well, but it's mainly dealing with, I guess, psychoanalysis and interviewing abductees, that kind of thing. It's somewhat channeling John Mack, And in fact, it refers at the back of the book to basically Ralph Blumenthal's book on John Mack. And if none of you have read it, you ought to try and get hold of it. That's The Believer, Alien Encounters, Hard Science, and the Passion of John Mack. So, it's a remarkable thing to see that 2 novels have come out in Australia in 1 month devoted to the UFO and alien abduction subjects. So,
How'd they come across your radar, Bill? Did you know that those were coming out?
One I knew was going to come out. That was the Season for Flying Saucers, and it surprised me that the Amanda Lowry book came out as well. So, yeah, I wasn't expecting that. This is the kind of coverage that it's getting. Oops. Yeah. So, yeah, but it's in both cases, it's mainly the human narrative, that kind of thing. You don't get any detail on UFOs or anything like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm really pleased to hear that, because we're not receiving reports about alien abductions these days, or our organisation isn't. I happened to be at a meeting, an ISA meeting, the other day, and we had a special guest come in for a private conversation. It happened to be Whitley Strieber. And I asked him, are you still getting reports of abductions? And he said, no, they've stopped. It's any that we do receive now are historical. They're going back to, 20, 30 years or 30, 40 years ago. So, because of that, it's sort of been swept to the side, and also by the whole disclosure issue and everything that's going on in the US Congress as well. So the abduction phenomenon seems to have been left behind for a while, actually quite a while.
It's not quite. Yeah, I've had a bit of a different experience. I've been investigating a number of cases, and there's a swarm of cases that I've been looking into or trying to look into, particularly in South Australia, and these had very high strangeness, and we're talking within the last year or so.
Well,
also involved apparent videoing and photographing of entities and that kind of thing. It was really quite a bizarre case, and the difficulty with these typically is that there's always an issue with regard to the dynamic that is sort of surrounding the main witnesses. In this particular situation, the main witness has gone through a fair bit of trauma, difficulties and that kind of stuff, and not really ready for a detailed field investigation. So I would have loved to have just gone down there like a shot and investigated in detail, but I've got the basic details, but I'd love to hear it directly from the main witness, which would be really good.
Yeah.
But there's a lot going on there, but I'm not going to disclose the location because every man and his dog will probably descend on the location. So, yeah.
Important.
No, I was going to ask a question too, because Sheryl just reminded me then of we haven't had many abduction cases, as of present, as it seemed like something that's more in mid '90s and prior to that sort of thing. So Bill, what's your theory on that? Because I know Sheryl, we had a conversation about this last time, but Bill, what's your thoughts on this? Why has there not as many abduction cases these days, or many reports on it?
I largely feel that it's the fault of the internet. There are so many sites and contact points now for people that feel that they've had that sort of experience to go to, and basically that's tended to, I think, satisfy the people involved with that kind of thing, and they don't approach UFO groups too often anymore. Basically, they'd rather share their experiences with people of like minds and people that have actually experienced the phenomenon directly. So it's a bit of a kind of a narrowing of the aperture, so to speak. They want to really connect with people that are in the same situation rather than connecting with researchers or UFO groups.
Yeah, because I'll say with the obviously the Australian UFO sightings page there and other UFO communities as well on Facebook and social medias and that, You see the odd one here and there, but they don't really seem to elaborate there or see sort of trying to open up. And like as you say, like they might be trying to find like-minded people there, but are they sort of maybe holding back a bit more as well?
Well, the biggest problem I think is that a lot of people have seen how people that come forward with these sorts of experiences, how they're treated and received. So I'd be surprised if anybody came forward, basically, really given the treatment a lot of people do get, particularly through mainstream media. That has changed a bit in terms of the Australian scene, but hopefully it'll get better. But yeah, I can understand why people don't go public on things.
Yeah, Michelle in the comments says maybe they advanced in wiping people's memories. So yeah, maybe their technology is better in hiding what they've been doing. It's plausible.
Yep.
Maybe there may be a scattering of these reports, I think, but I think in general that they have declined, definitely, because you mentioned, Anthony, it's in the mid-90s, actually it was the whole 1990s, was the whole decade where we received hundreds of reports of abduction experiences. So, but to add to what Bill said, I do think, and I'm repeating myself from 6 months ago, who's going to remember, but I also think that the emotional climate has changed as well, that and the focus has been, I think, engineered away from that particular topic too, to things like whistleblower testimony and congressional hearings and everything else that's going on like that, and away from the abduction scenario, because let's face it, what can authorities do about abduction experiences to prevent them, given that in some of the thoughts by even some scientists now, that these NHI are coming from subtle realms and emerging into our physical reality. I mean, we don't have that ability to do that in the way that they do. We may be able to do it through our own consciousness, but not in a physical way.
Yeah. So that makes me wonder too, then, like, going on that, like, also there are people who have had genuine encounters there, but how much of it has also been influenced by Hollywood? X-Files was very popular in the 90s there, and there's a lot of cases there where alien was very alien based with the X-Files there, with abductions there and crafts and such like, and you got Steven Spielberg's movies and stuff like that, and there's lots of Hollywood films as to where people could be thinking they might have been abducted but haven't been, but then you got people who have claimed to have been abducted, but they're having physical alterations to themselves or finding something strange with their body. Like, how do we go and depict between those then?
It's very difficult.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
There's a whole spectrum from. You would think that you wouldn't want to be going out there and saying that you've been abducted just because of it's a wish fulfillment and that kind of stuff. You would think that if they're at all exposed to a lot of the literature, some of it doesn't seem to be pleasant. You might get lucky or whatever like that, and often if you do go public, you're going to be hit with a lot of negativity, and you might get a positive reception. You just don't know. So it's a difficult thing. Might change a little bit the sociological effect of things like Disclosure Day, Spielberg's film, but I personally was a bit underwhelmed by the film, and I still prefer Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So
I'm with you there. Yeah.
Yeah. But it had its interesting narrative to it, but Disclosure Day, but I don't know whether it's going to have the same effect that Close Encounters had back in its day.
Yeah, I'm still
It's
yet
a
to watch
different world.
Day. I'm a little bit behind.
Yeah, I think the turn that I wanted to take out of all that was underwhelmed. I think if you want to come back to the US stuff and all the things that are going on in the last 6 months, I think underwhelmed is probably the word. I think unfortunately there is a mental aspect to some of these encounter cases, And the problem is that they seem unbelievable because we haven't had that experience. I think there's a lot of that as well, depending on who you're talking to. But I mean, there's a percentage that is obviously true, and it's been going on for a long time. However, it is hard to decipher anything. And I think as far as Disclosure Day having a similar effect, there's so much noise these days. I mean, Close Encounters of the Third Kind was a classic movie like that. Everybody saw that and it blew their minds. But I mean, was doing a bit of research over the last few days for this conversation. It's like there's so many new documentaries, and this is the next one that's going to blow everyone's mind. But really, I mean, I don't know that that's true. You know, like there doesn't seem to be a piece of evidence that show me the crafts or show me the beings or just be quiet. I think at this stage,
Yeah.
I don't want to
that
be
one
harsh.
Lil Zondo brought out. What was that one? That was on Prime there a little while ago.
The Age of Disclosure.
The Age of Disclosure,
Everyone was
yeah,
claiming
yeah,
that was going to be the big blowout, and that was just a bunch of nothing.
It was all the same thing. It was all the same.
awful.
It was the same stuff. It was the same topic. Yes, there's been some interesting videos. However, what else? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
let's face it, we're all sounding a bit jaded.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's the
Extremely
problem. That's
jaded.
the problem. That's the problem.
I think
'Cause
we're all
just
got
said, I
disclosure
did a lot of.
fatigue.
I tried to catch up for the last few days on everything, and it's just like it's just tiring. It's like it's all the same regurgitated stuff over and over and over again. And there's no, as much as there's been a massive push forward, there's also, the thing is, everybody here has been in this a long time, right? Like back in the 1900s, it's just been the same thing over and over and over again, really. But it's just been, now it's regurgitated back to the front.
Yeah, this is where I sort of commend Bill on this, because like he's been doing it for decades there, and he's still in it today.
I'll just get my walking stick. Yeah, I'll get my walking stick. Try and be stable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on, sorry.
But like we've all been like, in today's sort of, like I say, Triffin, Grant, Leigh might be a few bit ahead of us there, but like, we've been in maybe like 10 years or so, right? And we're already feeling like the fatigue from all this nonsense that keeps going on. But here we go. Bill and Sheryl still continuing on today, like, going hard at this there. It's like, how have you guys still kept going with this? Like, how have you not like just hung up the jacket and gone, no, I'm sick of this shit. I'm out of here.
Can I answer that first?
Go for it. Yeah.
I've wanted to do that a few times. I definitely have wanted to. I was saying earlier that, I'm a little bit behind Bill, but I've been doing this for 39 years. And I think it's what you focus on. I have not focused on disclosure. My focus is on close encounters, and it's far more interesting. And I was just going to mention, I recently watched the documentary Accidental Truth First, Beyond Disclosure. And if you haven't seen it, you might be pleasantly surprised. The first part of it is a bit of a repetition of the previous Accidental Truth documentary. But the second half is quite different. I don't think I've seen a documentary that covered those subjects. Things like, and questions like, why do so many close encounters involve apparent telepathic communication? Why do witnesses frequently report missing time, altered states of consciousness, and these memory anomalies? And why does the phenomenon often appear to anticipate human behaviour? And why do physical traces sometimes coexist with profoundly subjective experiences? These are all really interesting questions to me. And I think that, when, like I mentioned before, that they talk about the idea that of simulation theory, and that we may actually be living in you would have heard this before, in some sort of a software program, but who's running the program and what are they doing? They're moving us around through locations like which people who have close encounters talk about being taken and then being brought back. And sometimes they're not always brought back to where they were taken from. Not only are they taken to different locations, they can also be taken to different times. And we can see this moved around through time. We see this with people who have missing time, or people who are taken and come back and they've gained time. So it's a little bit of a different sort of documentary, I think, that you'll really enjoy, at least certainly the second half of it. And they also go into consciousness, but not in the way that we've been throwing that word around. They really dig into it, so that all these questions that I've just mentioned, they're no longer fringe ideas as they once were thought to be. So, yeah, I would recommend people watch it. It's $15 to watch it, but I think it's worth it.
Yep. So just to touch on that, there was Accidental Truth next.
Yep. Beyond Disclosure.
Beyond Disclosure, righto.
Yeah.
So, Bill, how have you managed all these years, mate? Like, how have you survived?
Do I look sane? I think I am. Yep. So, I think I've survived. No, I've sort of I've looked at it mainly through a lot of different perspectives. I've been interested in the history of it, the folkloric nature of it, the sociological nature of it, I guess the psychic side of it as well, and examine our own military intelligence engagement with the subject as well, and talk to a lot of different more clandestine type people, within the Joint Intelligence Organization, like Harry Turner and some of the chief defense scientists, which surprisingly, that history does seem to have been forgotten or not understood by the current incumbents of most of those senior roles within military intelligence, that we had a bit of a history of leading defense chief scientists that were interested in the subject, willing to pursue it, like Dr. John Farrens. And he told me that he was planning to write his own UFO book. And he said, no, I think I'll wait until yours comes out, Bill. And I said, no, publish your book. But unfortunately, he passed away about the time my book came out, and which is a sad thing. It would have been very interesting to have had a book on the UFO subject by a former chief defense scientist in Australia, which would have been great. But he wasn't the only one, and so that kind of broad perspective that I've had, examining all sorts of things within the subject, sort of has kept my interest going, surprisingly. So, but I also try to take the long view as well. That unfortunately a lot of the current players seem to feel that the subject's really only kicked off in a big way since 2017, and anything before that isn't important. But I'm afraid most of the topics that these people in more modern times, like in the last few years, they think they're making major discoveries, but we've all been aware of the kind of things that they're claiming as new discoveries. So it's been around for a long, long time. I was examining the psychic angle, consciousness, way back in the 70s. So we had groups associated with that, dealing with that kind of thing, alternate states, all that kind of thing, physical traces, claims of crash retrievals, all that kind of thing. We've been there, done that. And anyway, it'll be interesting to see whether they come forward with significant evidence. It's an elusive subject, unfortunately.
Absolutely. So, Leigh, let's go with you there, mate. Like, how have you sort of come along this? Because you've been, how long? Sorry, I've forgotten how long you've been, because you've been paranormal before this.
Yeah. I've only been really involved with this for about 3 years. What I will say is a lot of the UFO celebrities that you see all the time on the same old TV shows and the same old interviewers, there is a massive amount of maneuvering going on behind the scenes where a lot of these people have lost the eye of on the target, and it's more becoming about them. And you'll start to see more of it over the next few weeks, where they're more worried about who they align with and why they're aligning with them than the actual issues and the topic in general. And you're going to see a lot. There's a lot of the well-known people. There is a lot of, a couple of sources said to me, there's a lot of maneuvering going on. There's a lot more that these people are aligning. You're starting to see fractures in these people. It's become more about them than the actual topic.
Yeah.
And they've lost sight of the target.
Leigh, why do you say just over the next few weeks?
Because you're going to see more of it. You're starting to see some of it come out now. A source of mine in this, I hate saying this, someone I know has said there's a lot more. A lot of these people you see who've got podcasts in the US and that, there's a lot of scrambling going around. You'll start to see by the guests they have on. They're starting to find out that certain people aren't as truthful and honest as they have been, and they're sort of scrambling to distance themselves from the bad smell. You can work out who most of these people are and what they're doing, but there's a lot of people that were sucked in by certain people, shall we say honestly, that they're now going, hold on a minute, you know, they're not who they said they were. They weren't doing what they said they were, and they're sort of distancing themselves a bit. You're going to start to see a different avenue for their podcasts. A lot of these people, they're going to start, some of them have already started moving away from the usual suspects, and I think it's good. But there's a lot of people that you'll see in the usual UFO candidates are on TV and all the time. They're starting to make it more about themselves, keeping themselves relevant than the actual issue. And you're going to see, and I think you'll know who a lot of these people are. You've probably got their names in your heads, but you're starting to see it. You look at the comments on the YouTube pages when they're actually doing their programs, and all they're doing is they're pushing people away because people are bored with what they've got to say. It's people are saying, show us the craft. I love to read the comments instead of listening to what they're saying. And you hear people saying, we've heard this before. You're a grifter. The usual comments, because you've talked about this again and again and again. And you've got to be careful, because the public will start to lose interest. There's a very fine tipping point where you want this as mainstream as possible. But if the public still starts seeing the same people come up with the same untruths, half-truths, they're starting to become bored of it and I'm trying to think of the word.
Yeah, that's right.
A little bit mystified, a little bit fed up, and there's a very fine tipping point, and I think we're there or thereabouts where it's starting to affect the topic in general. For the main, I'm talking about the general public, not the people that are in the topic who deal with it, research for 20, 30, 40 years. It's the general public who you need to help push the topic along, are bored with the same people, with the same topics, with the same, I'd love to tell you, but I can't tell you, all that sort of, the usual people on TV. Then you're not grabbing a new audience, you are alienating the audience you've already got quite a lot. And you can just see by their viewing numbers for a lot of these people. And you just read the comments when they do in a podcast, and you'll soon see who they all are.
Yeah, we remember for Cardwell last year there, Ross swore at me there because I asked him a question there, why isn't he just, releasing what he knows, basically.
We might not want to.
He did too, that's right, I forgot about it.
You've got to remember as well, they often, the same topic, they might not know as much as they say they do as well. Some of these people, it's their paid job. And if they can keep dangling the carrot and keep getting views, you've got to remember that they're not always, a lot of these people aren't always telling you the whole truth, and by saying, I'd love to tell you, but I can't, like they say a lot, or people like Ross say,
if I could tell you,
you come back for more. Yeah, they come back, you come back for more, believing it's the Pavlov theory of that you keep coming back thinking, oh, Ross is going to come up with something new, or whoever else is going to come up with something new, and they're not. And I said, you're going to start to lose the general public very quickly, because there's so much other news going on in the world that this will get pushed back into the back of the cupboard again.
There's also a problem too with some podcasters. Like I had the experience of being sent a draft of a script which allegedly was about me talking, and yet I hadn't been consulted, and they were actually putting words into that transcript that I never said. And when I challenged the fairly prominent podcaster, what the hell was he doing? But I said, if you went ahead with this without my permission, you'd hear about it. And he just decided not to run the program. I was just astonished that someone in a fairly prominent position would do that they would create a script and not consult with the person that they're allegedly using. I don't know what they were going to do, whether they were going to generate an AI version of me or what, but it was just bizarre. So that kind of thing happens, and that's why you don't see me very often on podcasts, because I'm afraid a lot of the podcasts, it's the same old thing, or they're wanting only a certain viewpoint, etc. They're not willing to take the deep dive on the subject, that kind of thing. So, yeah.
And Grant, I think you're pretty familiar with this sort of thing, this sort of topic there. With like I've seen a few of your comments there and your posts there on Twitter X. You've been quite aggressive on there lately.
My frustration comes through probably more often than it should. But I mean, the topic's become so celebritized, you know, and for many folks that do have a following, they've got monetized channel. It's more about the branding than it is the actual data. And I said something the other day. Whenever there's drama going on social media, you need to get back to following the data, not the drama. And that's, and you know, as all of you know, I mean, I only do a live stream once a month, and I like to bring something to every you know, presentation that's new and fresh with documentation, rather than just sitting on my soapbox and talking about what's going on. I try and bring something tangible to every presentation that I do. And it's just, I think, a sad sign of the times that the topic has turned into almost a 24/7 news cycle of its own, where people are so craving you know, the next big thing that they're going to be disappointed time and time again. So I think I've learned, as I imagine we all have, is you really need to manage your expectations, because when you know, the Trump files, the Pursue initiative files were dropped, I certainly wasn't expecting anything to be, you know, overwhelming in there. It was interesting, but to Bill's point, it was underwhelming, and a lot of the data that was released has been out in the public domain for decades. But it was certainly interesting. And you know, Bill and I, we talked about this, that, you know, Harry Turner's 1971 JIO minute paper was actually in the third tranche, the third release, and the CIA, who released that, they just basically lifted that document set from the National Archives of Australia and released it. So it would be interesting to know if there, or see if there are any you know, future Australian you know, Australian drops or Australian centric data that comes out in future releases. Because unfortunately, with the files that have been released to date, particularly a lot of the video files and the imagery, there is no there's no context behind them. You don't really know what you know, what the backstory is. So it's just a big voluminous amount of data that's being dropped, that the general public, those that are really interested in the topic, are trying to lap up and find that smoking gun in there. And I think that's, you know, flooding the zone is kind of done by design to try and push as much data out into the public domain as possible, to make it frustrating for you know, folks that you know, those in the academic community and the scientific community to take this topic seriously, because of the lack of context and supporting data that comes with it. So I think, you know, flooding the zone with data is certainly keeps the Pavlov dogs, folks, you know, chomping at the bit, wanting more. But I think for me personally, yeah, I've had my moments where I've kind of wanted to walk away, but I've learned, and thanks to the counsel of other folks that I trust, you know, learning to manage your expectations certainly helps, and having something that you're interested in that you really want to focus on. And for me, that's obviously been specific cases like Westall, as well as the Australian government angle. So yeah, that if there's any bit of advice I can offer to people that are getting a little bit you know, fatigued by it all, just really try and manage your expectations, because if you don't, you're going to be disappointed time and time again, I think.
Absolutely.
I think every one of the civilian groups that still exist around Australia in whatever form, like, for example, UFO Research Queensland, New South Wales, the other organisations,
Mm.
they've all got very rich histories of research, investigations, that kind of thing. And I think if people get into the doldrums about what's happening in the US and all the rest of it, you'd have a much more enriching experience by examining the data that exists already now within the various civilian groups and individual researchers right around Australia. So that would be
good point.
my advice. I
I
quote myself.
think-
I myself, if I ever get bored, I look at other groups' archives, and it's always enriching. Yeah. So I'm a real fan of history, and also understanding our history and using our history in an informed way. And all the stuff that's being put forward now, I think, would be enriched by understanding what's gone before.
The Trip, you said you sort of had a quick look there, like you sort of been behind the scenes a little bit, but you sort of had a quick look there the last few days there and sort of trying to catch up on things there. Like, and you said you weren't really overly impressed with it there. So like, where have you gone with that? Sort of basically.
Oh, look, I mean, the thing is for me is that I saw something bounce across the sky in the mid-90s, and I was only a young fella then. However, I went to all the libraries and devoured everything. So I've been doing this for 30 odd years myself. It's the one thing that I've always researched on top of the pyramid and megalithic research. Those are two things I've been researching, since I could read a book, basically. And I think, as further to what everyone's saying, a lot of these information drops are coming out of archives that you can access straight away. One of the things that, and I like what Bill's saying, because, for me, this phenomenon has been with us for, we're actually not sure how long, thousands and thousands of years. Like, there's echoes of this phenomenon through ancient cultures dating back thousands and thousands of years. The megalithic culture across Mediterranean into Asia and Australia. And I think there's something to be said for understanding that history, because it broadens your perspective. You guys were talking about earlier with the experiences stuff. They're direct, like the entirety of the last few years, they're directing us down a narrative, a nuts and bolts narrative. I think, as to one of the comments said about crash retrieval, I mean, and as Bill said as well, and like back in the 90s, they were talking about crash retrieval. I mean, the landmark case, Roswell, is literally a crash retrieval case. Like that's the landmark case. However, these things date back World War II, World War I. It goes back and back and back. And I feel like we're being directed down a narrative to reveal maybe a technology that's been back engineered from these crash retrieval stuff. Like it's the Tic Tac thing. I was reminded that, Stephen Greer came up. He's another one of these guys that comes around and around and around. He's been saying for years that the Tic Tac is Lockheed technology. There's a patent out there on it and all that sort of stuff. So is that us reverse engineering this anti-gravity tech? I mean, with the actual phenomenon itself, you've got to get metaphysical to try and understand it. I think it's, there's the topic on consciousness is so fascinating. The matrix, what is consciousness? I mean, probably one of the most interesting bits of research that I've been delving down of late is that they seem to think that consciousness is non-local. Right? Obviously, we're all being animated. What makes me, and you guys, you and all the awesome people in the chat, them. However, the thing that makes us conscious is we may be an antenna for whatever the thing is that makes us conscious. And if you think about time, lost time, and if you don't put the experiencer tag on it, have we all had experiences where we've manipulated time, where we've rocked up on time to something that we should have been late to, or we've jumped time? You know what I mean? Like, I think everybody has had something similar to that. And what are we doing with that? And I mean, we don't see 99% of what's going on around us as well. Like, I had an interesting, here's a little tidbit, sort of half an interesting tidbit. So we put a refracting red light in our kitchen, and our young border collie sort of sleeps in the cage in the kitchen of a night time, and there was a red reflecting light into the kitchen, and she was howling, and she was up against the edge of the cage with this red light because she obviously didn't like what she was seeing through that red light. And then there's an old story about the first night vision was red, and they used it in Vietnam, and apparently they're using this red night vision, and they're seeing these massive beings wandering through the jungle and just having full freakouts. If you want to dive down a weird rabbit hole, that is one that's a bit strange. So we don't actually see what's going on around us, and maybe we're being led down a nuts and bolts and physical non-human in biologics or whatever it is, because if they're actually, oh, well, you know, maybe nothing's real and maybe we're all just, you know, brains in a pot, and you know,
Matrix stuff. Eh?
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you have to get metaphysical, and the depth of the topic. I mean, you can go into fairy tales, you can go into demons and angels, and there's all these things that date back, all these stories that are actually, is it all one and the same thing? Are we talking about one and the same thing? However, it's as far as the stuff that's been coming out recently, because I remember being a young fella and seeing Greer's Congress in the, what was that, 99, 2000 or something like that. Was a big time. Like, I figured out how to watch that down here, you know what I mean? And it's the same thing, you know what I mean? It's the same thing. It's different videos. However, the deeper level of understanding of this topic is that we actually don't know how long it's been with us for. Time immemorial is the answer. And then the larger question is, who is it? What is it? You know, are they the watchers? You know what I mean? I don't know where. There's so many topics there. You know, it's one of the series that I'm continuing to do on my show is the What Are Humans series. And it's hard not to say that we were potentially genetically modified to be able to do what we're doing right now, because there's nothing else like this on this planet. So is this phenomenon the thing that genetically modified us from whoever we were or whatever we were prior to that? I mean, you know, a few years ago that might have sounded crazy. However, it doesn't these days. Like, if you actually look at the research and understand it, it's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. You sort of touched on something I was going to sort of cover a little bit on Cardwell this year too, is you know, how are we seeing things with our own eyes? You know, there's lots of things in the spectrums there that we don't see, and one of the things I was going to touch on is tetrachromacy, which is only something that women have the ability of. Which is women that have the ability with tetrachromacy is they can see different elements of colors, more colors than what we can usually see with our normal eye, and is there other people who have this other ability more than tetrachromacy who can see things more than what other people can see in this sort of spectrum? And that's where you're saying
there's also conscious sensitivities, and you know what I mean? Like, I think it's like less than 1% of the light spectrum. As amazing as our eyes are, it's less than 1% of the light spectrum that we actually see.
Yeah, and it just makes you wonder, like, have these beings able to manipulate that where they can become invisible because of these spectrums there? You know, it's I know it's an ongoing question there, but it doesn't sound.
We have to get metaphysical and interdimensional. I think. I think that's where we need to get to, and we're not ready for that. You know, like it depends on where your opinions are on your own state of consciousness, and you know what your experiences have been in the past, and you know there's many different levels to it.
Yeah. One of the enduring links that I know Sheryl will be switched onto this as well, the whole shamanic link. You know, shamanic cultures worldwide have had this ongoing kind of initiatory experience, which is so similar to modern day alien abduction narratives. I was exploring that back in the 70s, and I wrote about it in Nature and Health in, I think, 1998 as well, and also in New Dawn more recently. I expanded that original Nature and Health article into a 2-part piece, and fortunately that's available on the New Dawn website, so you can have a look at the kind of shamanic possibilities and connections. And I'd even explored that in Thailand and China as well, with a lot of the indigenous people there as well. The Lahu mainly went to Thailand to explore the DNA connections with Peter Curie's hair sample, and that led us to the Lahu in northern Thailand and southwest China in Yunnan province, and they all had this enduring shamanic connection. Even in the Lahu people, this will sound very familiar to a Western religion, particularly Christianity. The Lahu received from their sky beings a tablet with writing and stuff like that. Where else did that happen? Under Moses, for example, all that kind of thing. But the Lahu have that same sort of tradition of beings delivering physical objects and that kind of stuff to guide people, that kind of stuff. So it seems to be extraordinarily similar to modern day encounter experiences and abduction experiences, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's a rich, enduring area, one that I'm still looking at. So
the story echoes, Bill. The story echoes and echoes and echoes. There's so many facets of the biblical story. I think that's one of the reasons that story has so much power, is it does echo, but also there's, because I said my main research these days is the ancient civilization. There's an Australian connection there. There's all sorts of things. However, when you start looking into the echoes upon the echoes of the story, tablets being delivered, following a light across the sky, if you take the angels and you add the feminine aspect in, which is the thing that's been deleted, which is half the problem, but that's not for tonight. However, if you take the collective group of angels, and then you put it against the pantheons of the gods of Egypt and Greece and Roman and Norse, and it's all the same, right? And it's different echoes, and they're telling the same story, which is, we were made in the image of the gods. Who did it? The gods did it. How did they do it? Well, they came in from the sky, and then they did this and they did that. Like, the echoes are endless into the past of all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So when Bill, you were talking about shamanism and stuff like that, it sort of leads me on the question too of I know Triff, you'll be a bit down this path as well there with psychedelics. How much of that has influenced into seeing into the dimensions and the outer worlds and stuff like that as well.
Well, psychedelics, I think, complicate things. It makes it a lot more difficult to differentiate things, because a lot of the indigenous cultures around the world didn't require the full-blown psychedelics. Obviously, some cultures, like in South America, utilized what the Western cultures have understood to have psychedelic capabilities in terms of plants, but most shaman cultures don't require psychedelics. So
oh, that's interesting.
Well, it's a lot of breathing. There's a lot of breathing exercises, ecstatic dance. That was the big. I mean, if you've ever seen they call it the dance circle. Forgive me, it's the local Indigenous dance. They call it something, but there's some of these circles that still exist here in Australia, and it's like a bowl that's been beat into a banked bowl, and they used to run around dancing to get a.
One of the most interesting mainstream films, probably a lot of people might remember it, Man Called Horse with Richard Harris, where he's a Western guy, gets captured by Indians and goes through the full shamanic initiation experience, and there's a lot of elements to that. But that's one aspect. They often call the shamanistic initiation the death and dying experience. Like it's almost like a ritualized death experience, and you kind of hope that you don't have that kind of element if you explore shamanism. But it is that full confrontation with a ritualized death experience as well, and being reborn, that kind of thing. It's a fascinating worldwide experience, and one that I'd encourage people to explore in a lot more detail. And there are still shamanic cultures existing in the world right now.
Actually, the UFOs. Oh, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, Triffin, going back to what you were saying before, it made me think, when you're talking about your dog got a bit freaked out because it saw the red light refracting. There's, interestingly, there's a short documentary that CNN had done recently, and it was actually, funnily enough, called "Unlocking the Code," where the correspondent Donnie O'Sullivan. It's about a DMT laser experiment.
Oh yes, the laser experiment. You can see the matrix. Yes, I've seen this.
Where people dose on DMT, and they'll have a red laser projected against a wall, and they'll get up close to the wall, and they'll look and see beyond or within the red laser, and report
basically
code
they're seeing the matrix. Yes, they're basically seeing
it's
the
very
matrix.
interesting. So it made me think. I mean, Bill, you being from a chemistry background, what role do you think, things like DMT play? Does it?
We all have elements of DMT within our own bodies all the time. There is a level of it naturally occurring. And as I said earlier, the classic DMT voyage is so complex. You get all these different types of entities appearing, and it can become quite complicated. That's why it's not the easiest of pathways to navigate a clear-cut experience. It's a full-on type thing, and some of the early people that explored ayahuasca and that kind of thing in South America was a full-on type of experience, and so your body gets almost ripped apart. If we're going to have these kind of experiences, you don't want to be made sick by the experience and all that kind of stuff, and that's what appears to occur. But I guess the sickness element is in part a play of the ritual death and resurrection kind of connection that is played out in shamanic experiences. But a lot of people try to explore it, that's for sure. But
I know that I know that there's a group doing those tests with DMT, but they're making it that it lasts 15 to 20 minutes at a time, maybe even half an hour. I think they can go in for up to 2 hours. They keep it on intravenous drip, right? And the study basically has said, so they do random people, they don't tell anybody about anything. And basically, if you stay in that realm long enough, everybody's having a similar experience. They're reporting back, talking to similar things. And that's the ayahuasca experience as well, is that the jaguar is very prominent. It's like whatever these substances take you, they take you to a similar place if you can try and communicate that. And I think, some of the shamanic cultures, I was thinking about the Egyptians using lotuses, different types of blue lotus and these sorts of things that can there's different psychedelic elements. I was thinking about mushroom wine that they found. I was trying to remember where they found mushroom wine. We've been trying to alter our consciousness to reach a different state for time immemorial. And, psychedelics is used in a medicinal way can be very beneficial for mental health. And I know they're starting to open that up with psilocybin and MDMA and DMT for post-traumatic stress. However, I do wonder where we're going there. Are we shifting our consciousness to a different vibration? The red light DMT thing is very fascinating. So they'll put a laser on the wall and they get up and it's like they see the falling numbers of the matrix, literally. And it's like, what is that? It's, as I say, if we want to, unless they're going to show us the bodies or show us the craft, I think we need to move the discussion to the experiencer and to the consciousness side and to the metaphysical side, because there is echoes of stuff like this. I mean, tell me how walking into a fairy ring is different to being abducted, right? Don't give the fairies your full name or else they'll take you over. There's a whole bunch of these fairy tales that if you look at them through an experiencer lens, it's a very, very similar thing. And then if you look at through some of these different cultures, the different types of psychedelics, they're finding more and more are part of them. However, as Bill said, you don't need it. It's like there's the DMT is part of who we are. So you can bring it on through ritualistic breathing. Bora rings is the term I was trying to think about earlier. The Bora rings, and that was basically ecstatic dance. But why are we drawn to do that to ourselves is probably another question as well, because that's something that we've been trying to examine, again, for time immemorial. Are we trying to reach a higher plane of existence to communicate with beings we can't see or know or understand?
Yeah.
Is it maybe bringing yourself to a point of exhaustion with your mind? You're dancing around constantly, where you nearly collapse to the point there where it breaks your mind to the point there where you maybe go into your own sort of self-induced psychedelic.
It's a bit like the Sufis, isn't it? Who twirl and they go into an altered state of consciousness to have that ecstatic experience of connecting with something bigger than themselves. You could say divine if you want to, spirit, whatever. But we can't stay in that situation. We don't seem to be able to cope with staying in that state of maybe bliss, if you want to say it. We can only go there and touch it for a short time. I think otherwise we'd probably blow a fuse, So, but it is something that we seem to be drawn to, or some people seem to want to do that. And I was just thinking about the conversation about shamanism, and there was a well-known shaman in South America. His name was Pablo Cesar Amaringo, and he used to do these marvelous paintings. He'd take as ayahuasca, and some of the paintings were like 6 by 10 feet. They were huge, and they were extremely complex. And in many of those paintings, he would all curiously include what really looked like spaceships, like classic, Adamski type spaceships.
Yeah, I've got a copy of his artwork. The artwork book, which shows a lot of that. That is fantastic material.
Yeah, and I just wonder why. Like, did he actually see those things? I mean, this is supposedly what I think he did. Unfortunately, he's not alive now. I can't ask him, but did he see these things and spirits? He also painted spirits into the images as well. Did he actually see those things, or
that's what he claimed.
Yeah. And I mean, I've done my own shamanic journeys. I actually used to teach shamanic practices, and not with using ayahuasca or any of those psychedelic things, but just drumming. And when you drum consistently, you're entraining the brain, and you go into altered states of consciousness, even while you can continue to drum. And I've had some pretty amazing experiences. Some of them, UFO or NHI related, while going on those journeys. And other people that I've taught as well, who have nothing to do with the UFO subject, have had those types of NHIs appearing in their own journeys as well. So it's fascinating. It's really fascinating what we can tap into in these altered states of consciousness, and what might actually populate those other subtle realms.
Absolutely.
Well, one of the interesting correlations I came up with was when I was researching a UFO crash story out the back of Burke. And when you drive out to Burke, one of the prominent landmarks you see as you draw close to the town, you look off to the right and you see what looks like a mini version of Ayers Rock, or Uluru. And it's a place called Mount Oxley today, but it used to be referred to by the local Indigenous people as Ubi Ubi, and they referred to Ubi Ubi, or Mount Oxley, as Bayami's seat. Now, Bayami was the sky god, and most Indigenous people won't approach Mount Oxley, particularly at night, and rarely go there during the day. So when you go there, you have to go to them, and they give you a key to access it, and so you can go up and camp if you want, which is something that we did. But the location itself, though, has this very strong connection with the local shamanic people, and that they used to call them Wirrans, and they would go to Woo or Mount Oxley to commune with by Army, the Sky Guide. So it was a fascinating location, particularly not that far away from where we were investigating this UFO crash. So it was interesting finding out about all that information. So, interestingly enough, there was a Scandinavian information scientist who was lecturing at Macquarie University who had actually contacted us, who said that he had gone with one of the local Indigenous people, one of the elders, to Mount Oxley. And while there, they were when you go onto Mount Oxley, there's an area of what appears to be like broken, fragmented rocks. It's like a crater. And apparently that's one of the key points for communing with the Sky Gods. And he was there with this local Indigenous person, and they both had the impression that they could feel something, but he took a photograph, and when you look at that photograph, it shows what appears to be like a void, or, you know, for want of a better word, like a kind of a field or an entry point into another world, that kind of thing. And that comes out in the photo. But equally, if you're being hard-nosed rationalist, you could interpret the same effect from getting a drop of water on the photograph, that kind of thing. But so it was a very interesting set of experiences, though. And it supports the shamanic aspect as well. So, yeah, and that only happened not too long ago. So,
I mean, it made me think, as you were talking, Bill, about different resonant points on the planet, because a lot of these temples, a lot of these megalithic sites are also on energetic lines. They're also on electromagnetic lines, and I wonder whether it is places like that that are, you know, for the want of a better description, potentially portals or access points. Is it an electromagnetic spectrum? Is it a vibration and frequency where these beings are more active than not? That's an interesting thought there. I just had that thought while you were speaking, because if you, in the other research into all the temples and the different things, it's like, well, one of the missing things of all these sites is whatever powers it on its grid in the ley line. You know, like it's an interesting thing, and I do wonder whether they are magnetic points. And for those, as you say, if you have a shamanic culture and that ability is fostered through that culture, then you are going to become more sensitive to those energies. You know, it's like, as we all know and understand, it's hard to prove, and there's definitely interesting people in the spiritual, paranormal, UFO world, right? But there's also some legitimate, talented people who do have a gift or an understanding that we don't have. You know, and I think
that's true.
There
are lots of people around the world, you know, that, and we have them here in Australia too, that are gifted with seemingly being like attracting to UFOs and that kind of phenomena. There's so many of them, and they all have sort of a range of gifts that seem to make them like a candle in the wind for UFOs. So.
So, Leigh, I want to ask you this one, mate, because you're of a paranormal background there. So how have you found all this, you know, with the mix of psychedelics and everything that we're sort of been speaking of?
The first thing I want to say is there's a woman that I met in the paranormal field, and she had gifted or talented, and she was amazing. You could show her a picture of someone that she's never seen before, and she would give you a complete rundown. And describe that person to a T. She'd ring you up and say, this is going to happen. And I was always ask her, how can you prove it? How can we put you into a laboratory to prove this is real? And I said to her, how do you get these messages, or how do you know this? And she says, it's almost like a download. And she said, I said, how do you do it? She said, it's almost like a part of your brain the information comes into. And it was really fascinating how she spoke about it. But there is, unfortunately, in the paranormal field as well, a lot of fakes in the psychic area. What do I think of the drug part? I do know that Sheryl was talking about the drumming, that one of the treatments I have is called EMDR, which is very similar to that for depression and PTSD. So some of this stuff is making its way into mainstream medicine. They treat PTSD now in a lot of cases in America. Sean Ryan, the podcaster, did something very interesting on it when they went down to Mexico and they used DMT in controlled environment to deal with, medicate guys with PTSD, and it worked. So yeah, it's interesting. I'm not so sure about the drugs thing. I've always been wary, coming from the background I am, very wary of drugs. But there is definitely merit to a lot of what's being said.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of data points, particularly over the decades, correlating with both good and bad, it depends on interpretation, health effects related to UFOs or proximity to UFOs. There's also been examples of injury that has occurred to a person prior to the experience being rapidly healed. So you get both ends of the spectrum as to whether or not proximity to UFOs can have a healing effect or a negative effect. So given the fact that I've been exposed to the broad range of data, I would recommend caution when you approach a UFO. But it could go both ways, basically. So yeah. But
Yeah, I think one of our bigger cases in Australia at the moment is I don't know if you've been talking with Damien Knott lately. He's claimed to been exposed to a UFO there, and he's got extreme radiation burns and a lot of health side effects from this thing.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem to be any help for him whatsoever. Like it's
well, I was kind of
how
hoping
do
he was getting a lot of help, but it's uncertain. I think.
It's like, well, how can we sort of break apart between the adverse health effects of coming in contact with these objects when people claim they can go on these ships willy-nilly, like why aren't these people getting these side effects there compared to people who just come into contact with something not in direct contact but like something near it. Like what's going on here, I suppose I'm trying to ask is like, why are people getting affected by this whereas other people are able to go and jump on these things willy-nilly? Like
I think it's problematic, any explanation we put forward, because as I said, I've seen both ends of the spectrum, that it's good and bad, and it's hard to be certain about what to recommend or encourage. Simply because of that paradox.
Yeah, that's the sort of. Yeah.
Sorry. Oh no, there's a couple of questions come through the chat. That's all. I just thought maybe we should, because the problem is that how do you actually answer that question?
Yeah,
because an experience is their personal experience, and you can't sort of say otherwise unless you've had that experience with them.
No, that's right, and that's where I'm sort of trying to juggle between there, like with people saying that I can go and jump on these crafts and I can interact with these beings and whatnot, but then you have other people that are going, well, I've been near these objects or I've been in contact with something, but I'm having these side effects. It's like, well, what's the difference between these people?
Yeah, how do you know?
I noticed that one of the people there mentioned people being in abductions being made to drink something. That's a recurring theme. In fact, I think it was one researcher that wrote about if you don't want the experience, don't take drinks when they're offered by beings that you're not familiar with. That kind of thing, because the consequences can be a bit, as I say, problematic. But
so be careful when you're at a nightclub there and going, so hey, you want to go and experience something cool?
Not spiking drinks. Yeah.
Bill, what about cases where people who do go aboard craft where they've been sprayed down with something before they go onto the craft?
Yeah, I suppose the classic example is Villa, with the back in the late 50s, he being applied all sorts of a liquid over his skin, etc. Some people thought interpret that as like an aphrodisiac because of what occurred. He claims to have had a sexual encounter, that kind of thing. But but a lot of people just have almost a light type, a liquid light flying around them. It has a similar effect as well. But the problem with it is that we've got such a broad spectrum of data points about it that you think you're going in the right direction, but then along comes a piece of solid evidence that argues to the contrary, that kind of thing. So
Yeah, that's true.
there's a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah. But I asked that because there was a case was reported to me some years ago where a woman was actually, she didn't go onto a craft, but she came in contact with beings who handed her a child. But before they would give this child to her, who supposedly was her future unborn son, that they sprayed her down with some sort of liquid, and she was immediately dried off. And she was told it was for bacterial reasons, in case so they didn't get anything from her and vice versa.
Yeah. Again, that's the other end of the spectrum as well.
Yeah.
You get a lot of those types of cases. Yeah. So I don't have an answer for you. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. No, that's all right. So I'm just
not a definitive answer anyway. Yeah.
No, I know what the questions are, man. So the first question was, guys, do we believe they've had a crash retrieval program? And look, the evidence would suggest yes, because it's actually been going on for quite a long time.
I would agree with that too.
Yep.
Back to the 30s in Italy, actually, is like that's one of the first documented cases of crash retrieval.
Well, yeah. You need to look at both ends of the Italian research community as to what the situation is with the Magenta crash, for example. You got some elements of Italian ufology that are regarded as an authentic case. You got a lot of elements within Italian UFO research that argue that it's a hoax, supported by fake documents. Now, I know there are prominent people that believe that, yes, they've had direct evidence for the Magenta crash. David Grush, for example, sort of describes that or regards that event as one of the first crash retrievals. But I personally would like to know what convinced him of that, and what were the documents? Was it just the documents provided by Robert Pignotti, or were there much more focused documents that came from within the intelligence community that were independent of the Italian literature, that kind of thing? Because a lot of researchers regarded the Magenta case as our equivalent of, or their equivalent of MJ12. So, and that it's controversial. But others see it as a rock solid case. So I don't know. I don't have any personal knowledge.
No, that was one I'd known about that for a long time. I didn't realise there was look, there's always the other side to the coin, isn't there? You've got to. Yeah. The important thing is that you've got to be open to both perspectives. I think.
Yeah, of course. One of the puzzles to me was that you're talking about crashes of unknown aircraft and that kind of stuff. That's the context of the Magenta crash back in 1933. Well, about 2 weeks prior to the Magenta crash, there was a crash of a strange aircraft in northern Italy, and it was actually Bert Hinkler, the Australian aviator who was attempting to fly from Britain to Australia, and he crashed in the northern Alps of Italy. And in fact, when they finally went up there to figure out what had happened, they found him and the crash plane, but it was originally described as a strange aircraft. That's 2 weeks prior to Magenta. So or the claimed date of Magenta.
Yeah,
so
right, okay.
I often wonder, was that the stimulus for the Magenta event or whatever? I just don't know. But it always puzzled me, that proximity of the death of Bert Hinkler in a plane crash, which was originally described as a strange aircraft. But he was given eventually a state funeral by Mussolini. So, yep.
That's interesting. I know. But, yeah. The other problem with the crash retrieval stuff is that what is advanced avionics now as well? You know what I mean? Like, you see a lot of strange planes and strange shapes in the sky. Like, I remember when the B-2 bomber landed here at Amberley, and it came over. And if you didn't know what that was, it doesn't look like it should be.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, it looks very, very, very strange. But I mean, I think with the crash retrieval thing, if you go from a different context, is that, you know, apparently some of these crafts that we have, that one of the stories that echoes is that they're gifts, or that we found them in ancient wrecks, ancient civilizations and diggings and stuff like that. I mean, I think the question was posed is that, do we think they have crash retrieval? And look, you'd have to look at each case individually, but yeah.
I've investigated a lot of crash retrieval cases in Australia, and unfortunately, you have to say that not one of them comes close to being confirmable. You know, it's always fragmentary. It's not a solid case, and yet some are quite striking. But you always fall short of absolute confirmation, that kind of thing. Particularly when it comes to material evidence. You know, me being a chemist, I'd love to have material evidence in my hands to examine, but it's always elusive stuff. And you might remember Sheryl, Alien Honeycomb, that kind of thing. Yeah. John Pickney's book back in 1980. Well, I know that the recent round of investigations of crash retrieval material, allegedly, or artifacts from the United States, particularly the people like Dr. Gary Nolan and Jacques Vallée and company, they were gathering together a lot of the artifacts, etc. And the one thing I detected in a lot of the exchanges was that there was a lot of honeycomb material associated with it. And I suggested that they read the investigation that we did of the alien honeycomb claims here in Australia back in 1980. And I don't know whether they ever did, but it took them a while, but eventually most of the honeycomb material that they had in their collection turned out to be man-made, and yet it had been speculated about it being exotic hardware. So, who knows? I think that argues for a lot of caution when you deal with evidence of this nature. You need to really check the bona fides of it and then get a fair degree of independent correlation and analysis before you step out and claim that it's alien material.
Interesting. So next question here I've got from Llama Hybrid. Anyone know anything about the small hairy one that looks like ones from Venezuela incident in 1954, or had an experience with them?
That's the red eyes, isn't it?
I know what he's talking about. I know what he's talking about. Little small hairy men. There was quite
the red eyes. Red eyes, is that? That's
I think Peter Curry had an experience with one of them too, didn't he?
Yeah, we had quite a lot of them actually up the back of Kempsey and the foothills, but all of those were often incorporated into the local Yowie law that was going on in the Kempsey area. But mini Yowies, that kind of thing. But there was one famous case where a local was attacked by one of these small hairy creatures, you know, somewhat similar to the Venezuelan account. So, but that was back in, I think, the late 60s, early 70s. But there was even a Yowie abduction experience that took place up in the back of Kempsey, where a young girl was kidnapped by a Yowie, but apparently survived the experience. But so there's a lot of interesting folklore and stories that do the rounds. And so I guess it doesn't particularly answer the question, but there are cases that occur even here in Australia. So
yeah, right. So another quick one here. I think you can probably answer this one there, Bill. Is Keith Baskerville still around on the Australian UFO scene?
Yes, it's his own circumstances, and I don't want to go into any detail, sort of prevent him from getting involved directly at the moment. And I'm hoping that there's a good future for him, but I can't really comment about that.
So we'll say he's part-time, but he's not there.
He's not in a position to directly engage with the subject at the moment. So that's all I can say. Yeah,
that's all right. Quickly find the next one here if I go back through. All right, so we're pretty much talking about this one. I know Grant's pretty well right on this one as well. For some reason, the Australian government are not interested in the subject still in denial. Why?
Yeah,
Tell
that's
us,
something
Grant
that
or Bill?
that's something I'd puzzled about because I managed to get an invitation to, a ticket to a military intelligence conference at Darling Harbour a few years back, and I was attempting to get the ear of certain individuals at that conference, but of course they usually had a whole group of people acting as protecting, keeping them away from the general populace, etc. So I wasn't really in a position to put the question to these people. But, you know, as I was saying earlier, there are a number, at least three that I'm aware of either chief defence scientists or deputy chief scientists, etc., within the defence intelligence situation that were quite fascinated and interested in the UFO subject, so much so that they were willing to support and participate in what they described as a rapid intervention group, i.e. having planes on standby, ready in case of a UFO landing to be there to gather physical evidence. They weren't talking about UFO crashes, but they were talking about going there and arriving at a so-called UFO landing event that had physical evidence. So that was something that was brought together initially by Harry Turner, but a number of the key scientists within our own military were supportive of that. So
into what decade, Bill? Into what decade? Because I mean, the archive stuff that I've looked at is like 50s, 60s, 70s. There was almost like a focus on it. There was a form. There was this. There's all these stuff that I've read.
Well, that
when did it fall off?
Well, the secretive stuff was sort of fairly prominent in the late 60s, early 70s, but I think it sort of fell away here in Australia in terms of I think it was originally under Brett Whittington, who recommended that there was nothing to this UFO subject, and recommended that the Chief of Air Staff pull out of the UFO subject, and that was taken on board, but it wasn't really finally confirmed until the early 90s, and since then they've not had a public interest in the subject. But my argument, I've also put this to Brett Whittington, that he regards himself as an authority on the official involvement, but I would argue that he needs to examine the evidence and the history of deep interest within certain components of the Australian military intelligence community. So,
Grant, did you want to go and touch on more on that?
No, I think Bill nailed it. I mean, you know, publicly we know that, you know, since 96, the Australian government has pretty much washed its hands and said, move along, folks, there's nothing to see here. You're behind closed doors, different scenario, obviously. We know that in May of 2023, under then Director Sean Kirkpatrick, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office in the US, ARO, held its first inaugural Five Eyes UAP caucus working group meeting. And we know that a representative from the Defense Intelligence Organization attended that all-day briefing at the Pentagon, and has likely continued to have engagement with ARO since then, in terms of ARO's efforts to keep its allies and international partners apprised of what it's doing and learn what its partners are doing. So I certainly don't think there is any interest from within the government behind closed doors to the extent that, you know, Bill has talked about in the past with the likes of Harry Turner and Farrens and others. But it's mind-boggling that 30 years since the Australian Department of Defence has said, you know, there's nothing to it, move along, folks, that they haven't committed to conducting a formal review of that long-held position. You know, it's just quite perplexing. I think it's an untenable position for the Australian government to hold, and it's clearly just not a priority for them. They're just so focused on you know, other priorities that they
Yeah.
don't see the UFO issue as something that is of an interest in Australia's national interest, certainly from a national security perspective and safety of flight risk, which I've been arguing against that position for a number of years now. But it is
Do we have any reports? Do we have any reports from
mind.
modern fighter pilots, Grant? Do we have any reports from modern day fighter pilots? Because I mean, obviously, it's the radar upgrade in the F-18 and F-35 apparently that's seeing and being able to see these things. Is there any clandestine underground reports from Aussie pilots, or they just ignore it when no one says anything?
Well,
It's trouble.
unfortunately, it's all anecdotal because, of course, there is no formal reporting protocol at the moment. There are no recording or reporting protocols in place. The Australian Department of Defence says that its current safety measures and safeguards that they have in place are sufficient to capture UAP reports, which I don't think it is. But you have the likes of, Ross Coulthard has said a number of times that he's had F-35 pilots sit down with him in his living room, and they have recounted their observations of objects that they've seen in Australian airspace that they couldn't readily explain or reconcile, and they didn't feel comfortable reporting it because they were aware of the position that the Chief of Air Force was taking on the topic, and there is still a degree of stigma that plagues this topic after all these decades. So it's only anecdotal reports, and you do have organizations though like the American for Safe Aerospace. That group is headed by Ryan Graves, and his organization has actually received reports from Australian pilots. Now, I've asked for information pertaining to those reports from Ryan Graves, and he hasn't provided any detail other than say that there have been reports received from Australian pilots. Now, that could be a combination of general aviation as well as military. He didn't provide a breakdown, but we don't have any reports from no official reports because there's no official reporting protocols in place.
Yeah, I think the general anecdotal feedback we seem to have at the moment is that I think most current serving pilots and things like that, people like that, have got the message that was relayed by the Chief of Air Staff. There's no real encouragement to report UAP sightings. They say that they can be handled by current protocols, but I think the message was pretty loud and clear to serving military: don't bother reporting them.
Yeah.
Next question there is from Mac Mazza there. Bill, can you recommend any experiences support groups, please? I'm sure Sheryl can probably touch on that as well. And bring
well,
on
I know
groups.
Peter Curry here in Sydney sort of does in a limited way that kind of thing still, but I think, Sheryl, you've had past experiences and any current situation.
Yeah. I'm running an online group at the moment, just started this year. And there is another group brand new this week in Adelaide. I think you can go onto Facebook. It's Adelaide Experiencer Support Group, I think. But if anyone's having any problems, not problems, but finding it difficult to find people to talk to, they're welcome to contact me, and perhaps we'll discuss whether they would like to be part of our support group too.
I noticed one or series of comments here for what Buzz Rainbow Wolf 4464 talking about hot tubbing with an Australian Air Force official. I thought that was an interesting little anecdote there. Be interesting to have a lot more detail about that.
Yes.
That sounds like a very, very relaxed disclosure there. So
that's all right. So we've got Jojo Diamonds. We'll talk about the crash retrievals before, but I'll touch on this a bit more and add to what she's added here. Claimed by Grush. Like, do we trust Grush with his claims of these retrievals and these bodies, etc.?
Well, I think he seems to be a fairly fair dinkum guy, and he's a very high level credentials, that kind of thing. The real question I have about the claims that he's highlighted is that none of it's direct knowledge, direct witnessing from his point of view. It's basically repeating what he's learnt of documents.
It's all trust me, bro, isn't it, Grant? It's all trust me, bro.
Well, he claims to have looked at actual documents and all that kind of thing, and it kind of falls short of it. But I'd like to have a lot more detail about what he did see and what he reported, what he took note of. The whole kind of dynamic. But that's something that's not being forthcoming. But he did recommend Harry Turner's 1971 document on the steps of the Capitol building a few weeks ago.
That's right.
Yeah. So all good there.
I mean, it is frustrating that, we've had how many congressional hearings in 4 years? There've been 6 congressional hearings in 4 years, and we're yet to see any first-hand witnesses or whistleblowers come forward that claim to have had hands on the craft or the technology. It's all been secondhand information, and I think that's credit to folks within the Congress that are really trying to chase down a lot of these leads wherever they do lead. And I think it's a value having the likes of a David Grush, be a staffer for Representative Eric Burleson, who seems to have a genuine, sincere interest in getting to the heart of the truth on these allegations of there being a crash retrieval program and reverse engineering program. But we, the general public, are really just going off of claims and secondhand information that's been provided to folks like David Grush and other whistleblowers that have testified. And one of the things that we're being told that is a sticking point is that these first-hand whistleblowers and witnesses that have presumably had hands on the craft are not prepared or willing to come forward out of fear of reprisals or fear of their safety or well-being being jeopardized, and thereby there is a push by select members in Congress to really push for whistleblower protections to be put in place, so that folks that are maybe in these defense contractors, these aerospace companies, if that's where the technology resides, if those folks do decide to come forward and share what they know, they're protected, because at the moment the whistleblower protections that are in place do not provide coverage for defense contractors. It's only employees of the government or the armed services. So we've heard these extraordinary claims now for many years, many decades, but we're still waiting for some tangible evidence that can support it.
It's extremely frustrating, isn't it? Because they've played this very cleverly, the US government, like making sure this is in out of their direct hands, haven't they? So they nothing can be found through freedom of information and stuff like that to go and track down these organizations or these mobs who finding out what Lockheed Martin's been up to back in the background.
Like I said, we're being directed into a narrative.
Yeah. It's been very well done, I think, in that regard.
You've got to remember as well, if you've got a high-paid defence job in special access projects, you're not going to throw away your security clearance, and you're not going to throw away a good job just to become a whistleblower. There's no benefit for anyone in those sort of jobs and those sort of positions with their intellect and their science ability to talk. It's their job, it's their career.
That's right. They've got very little to gain and everything to lose if they were to come forward without any protections in place. Because what would motivate a whistleblower to come forward other than having some terminal illness and they do want to make a deathbed confession, or doing it for the for humanity? I don't see that being a motivating factor for folks that have a family and need to put food on the table at night. So.
Yeah.
The other thing is too is that these employees, from a government perspective, are actually screened psychologically to see whether they can keep a secret. right? There's a number of tests that you go through to get to that point, and it's like, can you keep a secret? And they the type of people that can. That's you don't get the secret if you can't keep your mouth shut. You know, like obviously, as you say, what benefit is there? Just to and without actual physical tangible evidence, is there a benefit to being a whistleblower these days? Because it's all just trust me, bro, and documents from that have been available for decades, realistically.
Yeah. Well, I think while there's benefit in pursuing what governments around the world know about the subject and the experiences and all that kind of thing, we need to remind ourselves that the general public are having these experiences as well, worldwide as well. So there's a wealth of information that can be gathered from that context. It's almost suggesting that we really don't need governments of the world to assist us. There's enough interesting efforts coming about. I'm thinking of SCU, the Scientific Coalition of UAP researchers, other organisations that are doing really good work outside the framework of government. So that's a good thing to see.
Yeah, but the problem is though, we're sort of making some sort of breakthrough there in the last 10 years. But since Trump's released the files, the UFO files, and then brings out that website for the illegal aliens, and like that just threw us back to square one with what we've been trying to achieve.
Well,
yeah, that was ridiculous.
That's
News and distraction.
Yeah.
It really threw us back. It was a bit of a I get here for humor reasons too, like humor. I can have a bit of a laugh too, but the frustrating part is it really did throw us back a lot, because now these people are going to come forward, experiences or whistleblowers are going to come forward, and we're not going to be taken serious again, which is the frustrating part, because a lot of people have been putting a lot of work and effort into encouraging themselves or encouraging other people to come forward with their encounters, their experiences and such like that. And yet we're still going to have that same stigma still attached to it, all because of this bloody website.
Well, hopefully there will be a future to what's happening in the United States beyond Trump. So, I'd suggest patience. Yeah. See what happens. See what comes out.
Here's something. You bring it back a bit local. Did anyone see that weird thing that landed in North Queensland yesterday or today?
Up on the beach, you mean?
Yeah, on the beach.
Yeah.
Balls.
Yeah.
They reckon it was a piece of a spaceship, but they
from the
really...
Starlink satellite re-entry, I think.
Yeah.
Go on to another question there, which is sort of going on to what we were just recently talking about with government contractors and such like that. Jimmy's asking, do you all think that the Tic Tac is Lockheed Martin technology, as Ross Coulthard and Greer have suggested? I think we touched on that earlier too.
Yeah.
No clue.
No idea.
It's really hard to. No idea. I mean, if you listen to David Fravor's testimony, he certainly comes across as a no bullshit, no nonsense guy, and if we believe what he is saying is a true and accurate reflection of what he saw, then if it is Lockheed Martin tech, they've got some pretty incredible stuff that means that the US government's been spending billions, if not trillions of dollars on outdated technology, or it was something that was not Lockheed Martin. So who do you believe? I have no idea.
I'll just go and suggest go off Leigh's spiel there before there. Take things with a grain of salt. Don't trust what everyone's saying. Whoever's in the limelight of UFO disclosures and informations and such like that. Take a little bit with a grain of salt. Don't go trusting everything they say.
There's a lot of people that have been fed a narrative to spread that narrative, and they've just took it up and just run with it. So.
Could I just go back to the congressional hearings, the disclosure efforts? There's been a lot of disappointment surrounding that, which sort of reflects the extraordinary expectations that many people placed on them. And, for decades, UFO researchers believed that if only Congress became involved, the truth would finally emerge. But I think that assumption sort of underestimated the complexity of the American national security system. And, you know, and the idea that intelligence agencies, defense contractors, and highly compartmentalized programs operate within layers, deep layers of secrecy that are extraordinarily difficult to penetrate. So the long-term cover-up isn't and never was likely to unravel through a handful of televised hearings, you know, and the latest news headlines. I don't know whether that's actually going to do much at all, really. I mean, we know more about how the US government investigates UFOs than we did a decade ago, but we know little more about the phenomenon itself. So you've got to ask yourself, well, what has Congress actually achieved?
Yeah, I find it frustrating because, you know, every time we get something coming up or they're trying to get some sort of information, everything gets thrown back into the national security bin. And we get nowhere with that. And that's the frustrating part. Everything's getting thrown under national security when it.
Well, I could tell you, Anthony, but we need to. I could tell you, mate, but we need to go into a skiff. I could tell you.
Yeah, we do. That's right.
Yeah, I have a skiff in my backyard, so yeah. Come into the skiff. But no, we don't. Obviously, I've said before, we don't really need government disclosure on this. You know, for me personally, I had my own personal disclosure with my own UFO experiences in the New England area of New South Wales back in 72 and 73. And it was almost to the point of being insane, the kind of phenomenon that we were witnessing, particularly up on the Dorrigo Plateau around Tyringham and the personal experiences there. So for me, that was confirmation. Now, I've spent the last, 4 or 5 decades getting detail around that kind of confirmation. So I'm not really waiting breathless for the military to tell me that what I've seen and experienced over the decades is real or not. It'd be nice to have a craft wheeled out and have a chat with a live alien, that kind of thing. But beyond that, yeah, I'm not waiting in breathless anticipation.
That's right. It's going on that too. Also, I think it was Grant. You might have to go and correct me here. Was it Eric Belson who he's tried to ask the question there to the recent meeting there, but it got the question didn't even get raised, or it didn't even get put through or something. I was saying something there. Where
Eric Burleson's put through. They're trying to get the UAP Disclosure Act again put up for debate and consideration this year, but it didn't even get past the initial discussions at the House level. So it still, I think, has an opportunity at the Senate level. But the provisions the UAP Disclosure Act has failed now. I think the last 3 years that it's been put forward, and it looks like attempts to get it resurrected for this year are going to fail again by the looks of it, because there are concerns at the moment that, you know, Professor Avi Loeb has come forward recently and said that he has been appointed chair of a UAP Science Advisory Council, which is one of many advisory councils that will fall under a UAP governing body, which he'll be a member of. And a lot of people have fears that will just be another, you know, Robertson panel kind of esque, where the UAP Disclosure Act really advocates for the president to appoint have a presidential panel appointed that would actually go through and initiate a declassification review of all government files on the topic, whereas unfortunately, the UAP Science Advisory Council that Avi Loeb will chair won't even be able to look at classified material. So I think there have been desires to have a presidential appointed UAP panel implemented that would go through declassified files and say yay or nay, they cannot be released and for what reason, because there are some fears that this new UAP Science Advisory Council won't achieve anything. I mean, I think it's a good. I'm interested to see where it goes. I think it's good that Avi Loeb has pulled together a diverse team of scientific minds and expertise. So I'm not going to make judgment until I see what they actually do. So, but I think it could be an interesting avenue. But what comes of it, who honestly knows?
No, interesting to see.
I just had a thought while everyone was talking there. It's like the reality is, okay, we get full disclosure. So that means they've had a control of advanced technology for, let's say, at least 70 years. We've been back engineering it. It's given us all of our greatest inventions. On the flip side of that, they've taken billions and trillions of dollars to do who knows what with. And what would actually happen if we found out we've had alternative energy sources for the best part of 50 or 60 years and we've just been held back because of greedy people, basically? And it's like, the whistleblower protection, everyone, in case someone gets hurt. No, it's in case they say, well, what did you do with the $1 trillion that we've given you over the last 50 years? Then they don't have to pay that money back. Like, that's a big part of this as well, I think. And the truth is almost stranger than fiction if it is actually true. Like, at UTC, we like to take what if 1% is true. If 1% is true, we have alternative technology, we have anti-gravity tech. There's at least, they're living in the ocean. Like, if you actually zoom out and take the larger picture, if they were to actually say what is going on, and then they'd have to justify why they've held us back for the best part of 50 years, maybe that is a revelation that we couldn't take, thinking about it.
Well,
hang on.
Didn't mean to make everyone quiet.
I certainly think the US government opens itself up to a sea of litigation.
This is what I mean.
There's
Like,
going
there's
to be a
lot
massive
of
risk of
there's many
class action
refracting
lawsuits and
consequences.
so I think that's one of the things that's would certainly be a deciding factor. I would imagine if there has been clean energy that's been held back from not just the American public but the global public, that would be a big that would peeve a lot of corporations off, as well as members of the tax-paying public.
I sort of feel like if they did come forward with it, having what got released there, I think that there would be a lot of accountability for all the governments around the world there who were aware of this situation going through. Because obviously they would be aware that whatever these beings are, whoever they are, wherever they're from, are coming into our realms, abducting people against their will, experimentations, all that sort of stuff there. I think there'd have to be a lot of please explains on that part, and it'll be hard to sort of compensate on that, but there's got to be something there that'd have to be given in return to go, why were these people chosen? You go down a whole wormhole or rabbit hole of question whys, but I think there would be a lot of answers that have to be answered, or questions have to be answered in that regard.
Yeah. Again, son.
You're thinking.
So quick one.
I think we're plus 2 hours as well, guys. I think probably
I'm just trying to get the last ones in there. Jimmy's got a couple of questions there. He's got another one there, but I'll go this one here, which is a bit better. Do you all think Elizondo can be trusted? Leigh straight onto it.
Who knows?
I can see Leigh and Grant's face. They're just like jumping in the pit to say something.
I'm not a gambling man. I don't gamble, but I put my money on it that he's not to be trusted.
Where I have my concerns with Elizondo is, for someone to have claimed that they were the director of a UFO investigatory body for the Pentagon, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, and just some of the public gaffes that he's made in showcasing imagery that is easily debunked, but also claims that he in his personal residence had encounters with luminous green orbs for many, many years while he was in the ATIP program, and to not once try and capture any photographic or imagery of what he had observed. I can't wrap my mind past that. So that raises a lot of red flags for me about his competency. And I know that there are, Ross Coulthard has indicated that maybe Lou is being considered for a UAP czar position in the White House. I don't think Lou is would be a good choice because of the questionable credibility that maybe he has. So I would like to personally see someone else that it's a fresh face that's going to be doing any czaring on the UAP topic. But look, I do credit Lou for helping elevate the conversation since 2017, but his actions have not instilled much confidence in his ability.
Yeah, this is what I find frustrating with all these organizations that keep coming out. Like, To the Stars Academy, like we were all backing that, going, shit, yeah, we're onto something here. Something's going to go big here.
Weren't they supposed to gather all the UFO crash retrieval evidence and release it to the world?
Apparently, they even got evidence. They even got material.
Yeah.
And they were expecting big things from them. And, Lou was the forefront, basically, besides, what's his name? Blink-182 guy.
Tom DeLonge.
Yeah, we were all expecting.
Well, they promised to deliver a craft. They had promised their investors that our goal is to, roll out a craft, anti-gravitic craft, and that never came to fruition. So I think TTSA left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths that maybe had high hopes and invested some serious dollars into that organization. So if I was an investor, I'd be pretty pissed off. But
have a read of Jacques Vallée's last journal, what he's calling his last journal. It covers from 2020 through to 2025, and there's a lot of interesting commentary on a lot of this debate. So worthwhile reading.
That's why I'm getting frustrated with all these organizations that keep coming up there, because like they always come up with these promises there. Like, what's the we had Jake Barber's brought out another one.
Well, Skywatchers come and gone. I mean, they've gone dark. They made big promises that by the end of last year that they would have this all wrapped up and done, and they've now fallen off the map, and no one's heard from them in 6 months.
It's like they're taking all everyone's donations there to try and help these organizations, but then just run with the cash. It's like, why?
Yeah,
what's
exactly
going on?
Yeah. Well, people want to know. The thing is, going back to a lot of what Bill's been saying tonight, is he's got the runs on the board, and there's that many personal experiences and interactions that are going on. People want to know. That's the reason they invest in this stuff. They want to know, and it's. But unfortunately, with all of this stuff, there's always been grifters. And if you can get a 100,000 clicks a post for a couple of months, you're going to make bank on that, along with whatever else you're being donated to make false promises. Like this is the ultimate problem going around the place, and it's. Yeah, everything's bullshit.
It is. And that's where I know what Leigh's touching on there. Everyone wants, these guys all have to have some sort of headline there to go and keep people watching, interested, intriguing. They got to come up with bullshit there. And as you're saying, there's always grifters there, which is extremely frustrating. Like, okay, we get it. We people need to make money. And like, as we do, we don't make a lot of money out of this, if anything. It costs more to go and bring out content like this, than it does what we're receiving back.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, we're not out there to go and try and, promise truths or nothing like that. We're trying to, expose the reality that there is shit going on behind the scenes here. There is experiences out there who have genuine experiences. And, we're not trying to ask money for this. You know, we're doing this out of our own free time, our own goodwill, it's basically our own interest, and you know, whatever we're sort of researching into is, you know, what helps us drive more of us into this sort of topic. That makes sense.
I still encourage a bit of patience. Yeah. Like, if anybody should be impatient, it should be me. So, yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
I can live with it.
Patience of a saint, Bill.
No saint here. No saint here. So, yeah.
Last question there to go and finish it up there, because it's something that sort of irks me up a little bit there from my sort of scenarios I look into a bit. There is and I know probably Bill can probably touch a bit on this too. Are orbs UFOs? And I just want to quickly touch on that too. A lot of the crap that's on social media at the moment, there seems to be a bit of a fad, or, you know, reputation going around with these orbs flying around everywhere in the skies there from these channels or whoever's putting this content up there. All these people are filming with night vision cameras there, infrareds, basically, and they're always one thing is they never tell you what time they're filming. There's a reason behind that, but if you pay attention enough there, you'll probably notice that they're actually probably filming around dusk or dawn. And so these infrared cameras are going to be capturing a lot more activity in the skies than what you would in the middle of the night. So these people who are trying to claim these orbs as UFOs are actually, in fact, satellites, because you'll watch this footage and not a single one of these orbs are doing anything that's interesting in the fact of UFO nature. So pay attention, people. Stop being gullible and following these people who want to claim these UFOs as orbs. From my sort of research into these sort of things, there, an orb is something that's physically in front of you, probably on a paranormal nature. Like, if you don't know, an energy ball. That's what I would refer to as an orb, not some sort of light in the sky that's going in a straight line. But if you do see something that's, you know, changing direction or going phenomenally fast, you know, then by all means, I wouldn't call it an orb, call it an object of some sort. But this stupid fad that's going on there, calling everything orbs in the sky, is sort of irking me a little bit on that sort of nature. If anyone else wants to touch up on that.
The word plasmoid seems to be the word of the month at the moment. You've got
that too.
David Grush used it. Representative Eric Burleson used it, and it's interesting that you have more and more talk about, you know, these plasmoids being observed. I don't know if that's the same layman's term, being an orb, but it's interesting that, I mean, Bill, have you seen in your historical cases that you've explored, would you say that a lot of them are orb or what is referred to now as plasmoid, or more nuts and bolts craft?
There's a lot of blurring going on. You know, we can't even agree on what an orb is half the time, whether it's an energy object or whether it's a metallic hard-edged object. You know, the terms are interchangeable, it seems. But my very first article published in the Flying Saucer Review, the British publication that's no longer with us, was on a plasma-like object witnessed by a person I knew personally doing night farm work at Goodall on the up near the Queensland border, near Texas, on the Queensland border. And that was a very impressive encounter, but it was an object about yay big, seemed to be like a cage of ribbed light with a bright center, and he saw that coming right across the field towards him, and he was getting rather nervous when it came right across the paddock. The sheep had the good sense to go down the other end of the paddock, and he was waiting for what it was going to do. It came right up to him, and when it was about 20 or 30 feet away, it just vanished and reappeared behind him. So it was an interesting encounter, and then it kept going on its merry way. So that was a fairly impressive case, but that was from way back in 1972.
Yeah, so that's what I was sort of going to try and refer to as like what I would call an orb. The min lights. That's what I'd call an orb, or an energy light, or something like some sort of energy ball.
Well, once
Um,
again, with Min lights, I published an article detailing my research had done up to that point. I call the Min lights nature unbound. There were many types of sightings that come under the umbrella that we generally call generically Min lights, from hard-edged objects down to balls of light and all that kind of thing. And so once again, we're throwing all sorts of things into one category, that kind of thing. So, yep, it's hard to be certain about these things. There needs to be to get a little bit more certain about what we're categorizing as what, min lights, orbs, all that kind of thing. So there's a lot of ambiguity, and we need to get a little bit more better organized about categorizing what's out there.
Yeah, because it's just touching on the Stargirl's the one who's sort of going on about these orbs at the moment there and the time frames that are coming through. And I've touched on this last time we were all together as well. I can't find the video for it, but
don't show us the satellite video again. Stop torturing us with the satellite.
Yeah, that's the Starlink flare-ups. That's exactly what they are. I've been investigating into these things for the last bloody. Geez, what have been now 4 years?
If it doesn't turn 90, it's not a UFO. I don't know. That's
exactly
me.
right.
If it doesn't, you know what I mean. If it's not, if it's not bouncing across the sky, or it's not actually doing this, anything traveling in a straight line, like
why call it anything else?
Yeah.
But because these are such odd times, Starlink are a bit of a lower orbit than what the ones are the bright one. A lower satellite orbiting than the other satellites, so which are a bit further out. So we don't catch their light as much, basically, because they're a bit smaller, being further out. So these ones here, being lower orbit, they are catching the evening sky of. It's hard to explain, but because they can catch the light from
it's refracting light
from the sun
at certain times of the day. Yeah.
Yes, and so people will be seeing these things at like 3 o'clock in the morning or 1 o'clock in the morning, in the middle of the night, where we shouldn't be seeing these things. But the thing is, we are always seeing them along the horizon. So very low along the horizon, and you'll see them. They'll appear in this small little section of window, like you can imagine, like a square in the sky. And that's where they'll appear and always disappear in that small little section of sky. And it's always there every time, every night, basically that time of night on a clear sky, obviously. So at the moment, because it always changes with our seasons as well, you'll see these things at the moment, I think from about 3:30 onwards there in the mornings. In the evenings there, you'll see them from about 7:30 to about 9-ish, roughly, on the western sky. And if you're lucky, I think now it's a bit hard to sort of try and catch them this time of the year, but you will see them towards the south there between 1 and maybe 2:30, 3 o'clock, roughly. It's time frames change, obviously, as we, the Earth orbits, rotates, and, come from day to night, things change. But, keep an eye out. And if you're seeing the same thing every single night happening in the same spots, there's generally a plausible explanation. So keep that in mind. That's my spiel.
But I think energy balls, again, as Bill said, there's not enough clarification on what are we actually talking about, because energy balls coming through the trees and all that sort of stuff. Like I've heard stories about out bush, and they're known as min lights. The min light that I experienced was just a light that switched on in the distance and tracked us for like 15 minutes while we were doing 120, 130 k's an hour. Never got closer, never got further away, and then it switched on, and then as soon as we noticed it switched off. So I don't know what that is like, but that was there's many different variations. I mean, it's a big topic, but I think everyone's probably done for today, mate.
Let's finish it up there anyway, because we are all knackered. So Triff, we'll start with you then, mate. Where can people find you if you want to be found? And
I thought we were going to go for a couple of more hours.
Well, we could.
Come on, Piker.
Like I said, we'll be here for months there talking with you, Bill. Bloody hell.
Yeah.
The problem is that what is our record? It is 4 hours something is
I
the
think 4
record
hours
that we
is,
have.
yeah.
It is something like that. But yeah,
I was joking. I was joking.
Oh, I was going to say, hang on, I'll get myself a can of V. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
But no, look, yeah, unlocking the code, guys. Unlocking the code. It's on Instagram, Facebook. Haven't been as active this year. I've been finding my own path this year. However, re-engaging in my own way. Looking forward to Cardwell. Looking forward to. The thing is, the research never stops. However, what our human series is quite interesting, and looking to re-engage. And the things like this, it's like I do something like this. This is always awesome fun. Thank you so much to everyone in the chat who asked questions throughout the night. It was a constant barrage in there. It's hard to keep up sometimes. However, really appreciate everyone coming along. Lovely to meet you, Bill, electronically, and I do love these chats. They're excellent.
Wonderful. Leigh, how about yourself there, mate? You available to reach out to, or you want to tell people where you find you?
Messenger, email, Devilz Lane Productions, Facebook page, or you can catch me on my private Facebook page or Facebook Messenger. So, all the usual ones. And me and James are working through the film slowly. We've had a couple of new leads that have come up in the last month. So
That's right.
we're re-engaging in a few things, and we've changed the direction a little bit. We want to be very unique in what we do, and James is a hard taskmaster at times as well. So, but no, we're going well. So we've had a few family things coming up, and we're doing a 3-week trip after we've been to Cardwell, heading out west. So we're looking forward to it.
Wonderful. I was meaning to ask you how the documentary was going, and I've told people all about that. So I'm glad you touched on it.
Me and James just flying under the radar at the moment. Got a few irons in the fire, and just doing our thing at the moment. So, like I say, he's a hard taskmaster. He's good.
Yeah, wonderful. Sheryl, how about yourself there? Where can people find you?
They can contact me through the UFO Research Queensland website, which is ufoiq.org. or through the UFO Research Queensland Facebook page, which I've been running for quite a long time now, and my personal Facebook page. Me, I'd like to disengage because I'm always engaged and I get a little bit of cosmic indigestion after a while. So it'd be nice to take a step back. But if anyone wants to contact me, feel free.
Wonderful. Grant, yourself?
Most active on X, on social media. So at Grant Lavac, if you're keen to engage. Podcast, The Unexplained Rundown, on YouTube and Spotify. Just go to the unexplainedrundown.com. You'll get all of the links and some of the recent live streams. And looking forward to getting up to Cardwell next month. So it'll be great to see you guys, and looking forward to delivering a presentation on Westall. So should be good.
Excellent. Looking forward to that. And Bill, how about yourself there, mate?
Yeah, pretty much ditto. I'm looking forward to Cardwell, and I'm looking forward to visiting Horseshoe Lagoon and the Penises, and but I'm contactable on Facebook. My Facebook address, Bill Chalk on Facebook, and also the Ozfiles blogspot. That's the way to contact me.
Excellent. Wonderful. Well, guys, thank you very much for joining me this evening there. It's been absolutely fantastic there. And thank you to everyone in the chat there who's been chatting away on absolutely everything there. It's hard to sort of try and keep up with everything that's going in the chat there, especially with trying to listen to...
Yeah, really cool. Decent audience tonight. Really cool. So thank everyone for joining.
Really good.
Yeah, very good. Very good.
But look, thank you so much, guys. There, a wealth of knowledge here, and look forward to doing this again soon there. Obviously, we're all going to Cardwell there, except for Sheryl, who's ditching us, who is rude not to come up.
I'll be on the screen.
I know, it's just not good enough. We could have been all there sitting back
Maybe
having a
next
beer.
year. Maybe next year.
Maybe next year.
We're going to make our own crop circle up there. That's what we're going to do for the 60th anniversary.
We've all got to get there first. That's the thing. If we're going, we're not there yet.
No, that's right. But otherwise, yes, thank you very much, guys. It's absolutely awesome there. yeah, I guess till the next one there, right? So yeah, all the best,
Thanks
guys,
very
and I'll
much.
talk to you
Appreciate
soon.
it. Good to see you,
Thanks,
boys.
everyone.
Thanks, Sheryl.
Bye.
Bye.
Chat with you all.
Bye.
Bye, gang.
Oh, thanks, guys, for joining us. There was an absolute awesome evening there with all these wonderful people here to join us tonight, especially to Sheryl, Bill, Triffin, Leigh, and Grant. It was absolutely wonderful having them back on here and, talking everything UFO related and everything, it just keeps going there. We could have spent absolute number of hours here still just talking because there's just so much to cover. But otherwise, guys, you know where I'm at. If you've had an experience, an encounter there, please do reach out to me and have a bit of a chinwag there. I know we've got a few people here in the chat here who have had experiences there. So by all means, come and hit me up there, and love to have a bit of a chat with you and find out a bit more about your encounters there and see what we can sort of unravel. And hopefully, if you're willing to, obviously come onto the show here and say your piece here and hopefully encourage other people like yourself there to come and talk about their experiences there, because obviously the more people who talk about it, the more more other people it's likely to talk about it. But otherwise, yeah, thank you very much for joining me here. It's great, and I look forward to seeing you at Cardboil if you're going to be coming up. Otherwise, till next time, guys, all the best there, and yeah, till next time. All the best. Catch you later, and till next time. See you later. I'm going to shut up. Bye. Oh, that one.